you can't really call Google on a free Gmail account if you're having trouble. You just gotta kind of figure it out. Whereas with Google Workspace, on the business side, you can call a partner, like myself, or you could even reach out to Google if you're having a specific problem.
If you're a natural-born marketer, you're one lucky son of a gun. If you're like most people, marketing, especially online marketing, is about as appealing as standing in a police lineup. The migrate team of creatives has transformed websites and digital marketing from craptastic to fantastic since 2005. Our podcast, Marketing with Purpose, makes sense of marketing so you can make purposeful decisions instead of carrying on with the same old crap you've been doing. And now your host, Monica Pitts, founder of migrate, with another episode on how to make your marketing not suck.
Hello again, and welcome back to Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts, and I'm super excited today because I get to hang out with one of my favorite people on earth, Travis Schumacher. And it's not just because he's really smart, it's also because he's my brother. So I invited Travis here to talk with you guys today because he knows all about Google Workspace. And I have people ask me about Google Workspace all the time because they're looking for an email solution that will allow them to have a professional email. And then I send them over to Travis because I don't know everything about it. Because even though I build websites, that doesn't mean I know anything about your email. Like, really. So, Travis, why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling us about your business?
All right, Monica, thanks for inviting me to hang out virtually.
Yes.
Obviously, my name is Travis Schumacher. I'm general manager over at Tranquility Internet, and we're an internet provider. We do so we get people internet, at their home or their business. We also help them with email services like Google Workspace, and basically helping them communicate on the internet, getting to the internet. That's kind of our specialty. So we've been a Google partner for 10 plus years. So we definitely know what's going on there.
So where are you guys located?
We're here in Columbia, Missouri, the heart of Missouri. In good old Como. So
yeah, and you're like right downtown too, so that's kind of fun.
Yep, right across.
But for this type of a service, for Google Workspace, you can work with people anywhere, right? It's not just in Columbia, Missouri, because it's a hosted service out online.
Correct. Yep, we can pretty much help folks anywhere.
So I thought maybe we would start out by just explaining what Google Workspace is, because, not everybody knows. I feel like everybody has heard of Gmail, right? Can we all agree that everybody knows what Gmail is? You think yes?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. So what the heck is Google Workspace then?
Google Workspace is essentially Google's business, email platform. It's kind of like Gmail on steroids. Right. There's a lot more stuff with it, and you can actually control a lot more stuff. So you can dictate what apps people have access to, calendar, docs, all sorts of stuff, even restoring their email if someone goes and deletes a bunch of stuff. So it gives you more control to your email as a business, and it's basically it's their business product.
But it's a lot more than just email. Like I heard you mention the Google Docs, and you have Google Drive, which that's like file storage, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of core apps. There's Gmail, as part of Google Workspace. There's Google Drive where you can store files. There's Calendar where you can have your calendar invites. There's Meet where you can have virtual meetings. There's data retention. You can even manage devices, remote wipe. There's tons of stuff that a lot of folks don't even know is there, but it's in there. It's set up.
I didn't know that. If I'm being honest, I don't even know what remote wipe means, and don't even tell me. Don't even tell me. It might make my head explode. Okay, don't even tell me. So are there any other products like Google Workspace out there that people might compare it to that they might know exist?
Yeah, the biggest one is probably Office 365. That's Microsoft's business email communication suite. Where they have, Outlook. For email, they have Word and Excel and PowerPoint and OneDrive. Microsoft Teams for collaboration. Web meetings. So that's kind of their. They go Google and Microsoft go head to head, with those two product lines, the Office 365 and Google Workspace.
I feel like one of the main reasons that we moved over to Google Workspace as a company was because we needed to be able to share all of our files back and forth with each other and not be just creating files on repeat over and over and over again. Because back in the day, you had a Word doc and then you emailed it to somebody and then they put their revisions in it and then they emailed it back to you and then you saved it. So you have two versions and then back and forth and back and forth. And it was a mess. Like you never knew what was what and which one you needed to be working in. And so I feel like using a product like Google Workspace can allow teams to collaborate a lot easier, especially in this day and age where not everybody is sitting in the same room anymore.
Right. No, totally.
Okay, so I know, so we already discussed, we think we know everybody knows what Gmail is. And there's a free Gmail though. So just Google Workspace isn't necessarily like the free version of Gmail. So what's the difference between the free version of Gmail and the Gmail that comes inside of Google Workspace?
I'd say there's three things. The first thing is with the very, I guess the most important thing is the free version of Gmail. You have to use gmail.com, as the email address. With Google Workspace, you can have, your name at your business at your domain.com. Okay. So that's one of the biggest things. You can't do that with a personal, Gmail account. You can't have that professional looking email address with Gmail. Okay. The next thing is ads. Obviously, you see some ads on the right-hand side, within Gmail when you're working or the calendar or whatever app you're using, and so you can see those ads and stuff, on that one side. They're trying to, advertise things to you. And then the last thing is, support. You can't really call Google on a free Gmail account if you're having trouble. You just gotta kind of figure it out. Whereas with Google Workspace, on the business side, you can call a partner, like myself, or you could even reach out to Google if you're having a specific problem. So it's a paid service, so you can get actual support. So those three things. Again, it's your professional email address, not just a Gmail. No ads, and then you can actually get support.
So if you have the free Gmail account, I do okay, so I'm asking this question because I really don't know because I've had the paid account for so long. Mm-hmm. We've literally used them forever. If you have the free account, do you have access to all the other apps? Do you get Google Docs and Google Sheets and that kind of stuff, or are they not there for you?
Majority of them are there, and they're tied to your specific user, your Gmail user. You can't really control. So if you have several employees and they all have free Gmail accounts, right? You can't really control or dictate what happens in those accounts because those are theirs. On the paid side, if you have a Google Workspace account, you can lock those accounts out. You can change passwords on them. You have more control than just the free account. You can pretty much access. You can even control which apps you want your users to have access to. So if you don't want them to create any YouTube channel, on their personal account that's trying to talk about your business, you can shut that down, and only certain people, only your marketing team could have access to, say, your YouTube channel.
We learned this the hard way once upon a time because before Google Workspace came about, we had one of our new and extremely articulate designers create like user guides for each new thing that she learned in our company. And they were all saved underneath her account. And then when she left, we closed her account and we created a new account for the new person. These were paid Gmail accounts. They just weren't all within Google Workspace together with our company. So we didn't roll it over to another person, and we lost all of the user guides that she made. And it was so sad. It was so sad. It was awful. And I don't know if we ever remade them. That's a terrible thing to admit, but like that's what can happen whenever you have those individual Gmail accounts. So another question that I have for you is, so we have the shared drive. Is that normal? Because so one of the challenges that we were having is that people would make their files, but then only they had access to that file unless they shared it with all the other team members. And now we have our shared drives, which means that everyone underneath the migrate.com domain who has access to Google Workspace can get to all the things in the shared drive, and you don't have to share it with everybody. Did I say that clearly enough? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that normal? Is that in the normal? Or do we have something special?
There's 4 different tiers of Google Workspace. There's there's the starter, I believe, the standard, and then the plus. Okay. So the starter, you don't have access to, the shared drive, functionality. You have to, upgrade to the standard version, or the plus version to have access to that. And what's really cool about that, if you're needing a file storage, a file type server, those files, if you put them in the shared drive, they're owned by the shared drive. They're not owned by an individual. So therefore, if someone leaves, it's like not a big deal. It's still saved and stored on the shared drive, not the individual. So
that's what we needed.
right.
It makes our lives a lot easier. Okay, so I hear that you can sign up for Google Workspace for free if you're a nonprofit. Do you know anything about that?
You can. They actually have some great stuff, some great discounting for nonprofits. I think they discount up to 70% off the standard pricing, and you can have as many users as you want. They have the starter plan, the standard, the plus, and the starter plan, you can, have as many users as you want. You don't have to pay for it. Okay. And then they have the standard, which has like the shared drive, which is like looks like they have it discounted to like $3 a user instead of 12. So we have pretty heavy discounting. They're trying to give back and help out. They do have some. There's some requirements you have to adhere to in order to qualify for that kind of stuff, and you have to be a 501c3, a nonprofit. You have to have that status, and then they have a company that you register through called TechSoup, which is kind of a cool company. They sell a lot of discounted hardware, from a licensing standpoint, and they're a worldwide organization, and so Google uses them to verify that you are a nonprofit. That's one of their ways of easing the burden, I guess, on verifying you are who you say you are. So yes, there are free accounts, which are awesome, and they're the same as the business ones, just discount heavily.
So a couple things that I really do love about Google Workspace for nonprofits is that you can actually embed a Google Drive folder in your WordPress site. So if you can password protect that page, and then you can share, say, all of your meeting minutes with your board if you want to. That is super, super handy. And we've done that for a number of our nonprofits that are just looking for a way to easily share files back and forth with one another. And also, it is one of the things that I have run into many times as a volunteer or as a board member of a nonprofit is losing process documents. So for example, let's say that you have an event and you only hold it every 4 years. Well, you have to figure out the process of planning and hosting that event, right? And you're always asking yourself, well, what did the people before me do, right? And they saved it someplace on their own computer and you can't find it, or you can't find the file folder for it anywhere. And if you save it out in Google Docs, and your organization has their own Google Workspace account, you'll be able to get it. And then you don't have to relearn it every year. And it saves you so much time and energy. So I've seen it solve so many problems for our nonprofits. It's a really cool service. Okay, so let's transition into talking about, like, let's say that, like, this is the thing, you really want to try Google Workspace for your business or organization. Yeah, how does that go? Like, if you have an existing email account and existing documents, and then you're going to move them over to Google Workspace, like, what the heck? That seems like a gigantic tech vortex, like some type of black hole for me to fall into.
Sometimes it can be. Usually there's migration tools to migrate from to migrate your email to suck it all into the Google Workspace account. There's free tools to do that with. There's paid tools, and typically that process looks like you start it, the migration, and then depending upon how much email you have, some people have a lot, several gigs, multiple gigs, hundreds of gigs. And that takes time to migrate to those servers. The nice thing is it's backed up, it's there. You can access it, wherever, through a web page, through the Gmail interface or the webmail interface. So the migration can take some time, and usually there's a couple different parts on typical migrations. It's mail, contacts, calendars, and then files if you're going to migrate, and use their Google Drive, the file server, like Monica was talking about. So that can take, usually I look at that as like, hey, we're moving. We need to throw out a bunch of stuff we don't want, and we're going to kind of reorganize the house. We're going to try to put, label these boxes, kitchen, Connor's room, Sarah's room, so that when the movers go, they put them in the right rooms. And, that's kind of the same process, what I try to go through with our clients when they're migrating, files, to help reorganize. It's like a cleaning thing. You can't export everything, depending upon what it is, and just carte blanche upload. And just use the search functionality within the file server. And I mean, as long as your naming convention is something you can search for, you will find it. Otherwise, you may be in a box that's behind another box, under a box that you might not find for a little while. So, yeah.
One of our clients likened their website rebuild to going into the closets of your house and being forced to sort through every single item, and then doing like the most massive spring cleaning like ever. And I totally understood that, because there are so many things that we have and that we create, especially when data is so easy to create, that why do we even need it? Like, there's, on any given day, I could open up my Google Drive and see multiple untitled documents. And it's because I just opened up a Google Doc, took 3 words worth of notes so I wouldn't forget them, and then just left it and closed it, and it's not even there. And so I know other people are doing the same thing. I could see where it would be really beneficial to have someone take you through that emotional process of cleaning out all of your data. Right. Now, I have a question for you. We're talking about how the migration process takes time. Do you keep using your normal email as the information migrates, or do you wait, or how does that work?
Typically, the files, once you set up, you start with Google Workspace, it's pretty much immediately ready, for use after, you've verified it and it's up and going. So as far as when you're transitioning email, usually we import, we do it one of two ways. We either do, basically a hot cut, where we send all new mail to Google, and then we import the existing data from a previous email provider, and that way anything new is coming into the new house, and then everything else just starts coming in, just like the movers, right? They keep bringing it in, and eventually all your data is there once the migration is complete. Other times, we will dual deliver email to both places. They'll be going to your old one and then going to your new one, and we'll do that migration, and then most everything's there. It's the same in both places, and then we just stop delivering it to the old one. Okay, so those are typically the two, and depending upon the size of the organization, usually the bigger the organization, we'll use that latter process. With smaller ones, 10, 15, 20, less than 50 users, we probably, and also depending upon the nature of the business, we would probably just, cut things over and then migrate the mail, because we do it on like a Friday and it start being in there. So come Monday, most all your mail is probably going to be there already. So that's how the kind of typical migration options and how it usually works.
Okay, so when you're explaining all this stuff to me, I'm realizing how I never did this for myself. Like it was totally taken care of for me. And I'm just asking myself, how hard is it really to switch from another system to Google Workspace, even from maybe the free version of Google to the paid version of Google? Is it something that somebody can do for themselves? Or is it really something that you're like, maybe you should hire someone to do it for you?
It kind of depends. Usually on the business side, it comes down to one of two things. You either know enough to be dangerous and you kind of want to do it yourself, or you're like, I just don't really want to mess with it. I want to know kind of how it works, but I just want it to be there. I want you to take care of it because I've got other things I need to be doing, to operate, run my business. If I'm a Gmail account, if it's going Gmail to Gmail, there is a migration tool within Google Workspace that, you can put in your username, your password of your existing Gmail account, and it will, suck in that data. It'll bring in your email. I don't know if I'll have to double check, but I don't think it may migrate your contacts and calendars since it's kind of Gmail to Gmail. But I know for sure it migrates, the email. Your docs typically won't. You'd have to export those and re-import those. So
I know that with our company, we had you guys do all of our emails, and then Stacy took care of most of the docs. And we were just moving from a different style of Google account into the workspace when it became available, because it wasn't available like it is now in the past. And Stacy took care of the migration of all of our files, because we really did do a cleaning of house, and some stuff just never moved because the amount of data that we create. And I think I remember you just being like, Monica, the amount of crap that you guys make on a daily basis with these design files is astronomical. I think you were grossed out at one point about it, but well, compost file is going to be multiple megs. It's not like it's tiny.
No, it's not.
This is what we do every day. We just make crap. Okay, so if somebody did need help with it, is there a way to find somebody in their area, or is there a directory that they can go to find a provider for the transition?
Yeah, for Google Workspace, if you hop on their site, you can look for I think under the resource section, you can look for Google, partners. We're obviously listed as one of them. and you can try to find one in your area. From a migration standpoint, it's nice to work with a partner because you have someone local that you can actually reach out to and work with. I got a lot of folks that sign up with Google Direct, and they're like, "Man, I didn't know I could just sign up through you, and it's the same price." It's why wouldn't I just work with you? Because I can actually talk to you. You speak you speak the language I speak. So, getting a partner, I think is definitely a big benefit, even if you like doing things yourself. I think it's a good place to look there, and asking other business owners if they have a partner that they work with, that they can point you in the right direction. So.
And do you guys offer training? Do a lot of the partners offer training? Because I know that there is like an administrative component to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've even described it during this podcast about how there's different apps that they have access to and all kinds of different stuff. So do
Mm-hmm.
you do training from I'm assuming that most Google partners are not training people how to use Gmail. They would be showing you how to administer your accounts, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so typically what we do when we onboard, we'll do migration unless we're just starting fresh. We usually do a quick intro of the admin panel, so you know what's going on, where things are at, that you know of it, and then I point you. We talk a little bit about the business, what tools you think you'd use the most. Some are like, well, we're going to use the email and the calendar, and then the meeting functionality. We're not really going to use the docs or the drive or anything like that. That's what we're using. So we'd kind of, in the little onboarding, hour session that I usually do, we run through those areas, and I point them to the Google Learning Center. They have a great tool where you can see they've got videos. There's a bunch of great content in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets folks started and gets them answering those other questions. Then we can do another follow-up where if we need to do a more specific tailored training, then we can, and we usually just charge like an hourly rate for that, so that they get the most pertinent content for what they need. But I usually, hopefully you do get, whether you jump on with me or another partner, that they do give you a general overview of that admin dashboard, because there's a lot of power that's back there that a lot of clients just don't know about. So lots of stuff to take advantage of.
We discover things all the time. I'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, what is this? Why is this? And then I'll like Google it, and it'll be like, oh, you go into this admin thing. And I'm like, hey, Stacy, can you make this happen in the admin thing? She's like, I don't know. And then she logs in and she starts digging around in the admin, and it's kind of fun. We're always finding different things that we can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I have to ask you the like burning question of all people who are thinking about buying a service, which is like, if someone were, obviously you can go out and find Google's pricing out on their website because
Mm-hmm.
it's out there, and we're not going to quote it here because if it changes and you listen to this podcast and you're going to get the wrong stinking numbers, so we're not doing that. But and as Travis mentioned, if you did sign up through a partner, it's the same monthly price most of the time through the partners. So then if they chose to have someone like your company migrate their content or migrate their user, like, is it super expensive, or how does that work?
It kind of depends on the content you're wanting to migrate. Obviously, if we're just doing some basic, some email, it's not going to be as heavy lifting as, migrating and importing, 2 terabytes worth of documents, and helping you structure that. So typically you'll see, for data migration, anywhere from like, I'd say, 20 to like $75, per user to migrate data, probably somewhere in that ballpark. And then for your specialty things, like we're migrating all this data, we want to do extra trading, onboarding, those would kind of be, a case by case basis, and quoted out on like a, like a project, type, consulting rate. So that's
like
usually
$20 to $75 per user for like the email kind of data you're
right.
saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like our standard is usually $25 a user if we're just migrating email contacts and calendars. If we want to start migrating, Drive docs, and helping with all that, if we're just migrating just the user stuff and not creating my shared drives and things like that, usually it's in that $75 to $100 a user range. And if we're helping to restructure everything and doing all that, then it's more of a project based on the scale of what's needed. So,
Man, now I know why I paid you to do it. That's super affordable. I would not have wanted to do it myself. I'm like, I don't. My theory with outsourcing tasks is that if I'm never going to have to figure out how to do it again, I don't want to figure out how to do it right now. And so I would just rather you do it for me and not even move on, because like, when am I going to migrate mail again to my
yeah.
Google Workspace account? Anyway, so I guess that's my mentality of it. But yes. Okay. Well, awesome. So before we wrap up this podcast, is there anything else that you feel like people should know about Google Workspace?
There's so much. It's so much more than just email and calendar. There's so many more things in the back end of it that you don't think about. I mean, I can tell you a story. There was a contractor, electrical contractor that we were working with, and I think they had 20 users or so, and one of their users kind of went, one of their employees kind of went rogue and deleted everything they had been working on for like 2 weeks and quit. And in his account, and they were up in arms. They're trying to figure this out. They couldn't find this data. They were trying to put things back together, and they picked up the phone, called, and said, "Hey, Travis, what is there any way we can recover any of this stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I go in there and I click a button, and poof, I got the last 30 days. It all comes back in. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that was there," And it's like there's so much stuff in the back, in that content, that you don't know, that you could be using to take advantage of. That it's just so much more powerful than just email and calendar and storing a few files. So that's probably that's a little story I like to share. That
Well, and from a
powerful
technology and a progression perspective,
Mhm.
like one of the things I love about Google Workspace is it integrates with like pretty much anything, especially if you are familiar with Zapier, which will connect two systems like by clicking buttons basically. And I've integrated it with websites and all kinds of stuff to do like just awesome, almost unimaginable things that you would have at one point had to pay, tens of thousands of dollars to a programmer to do. And now you can do it in a Google Sheet or with Gmail or connecting all of them. And some of it isn't even through like Zapier. Stacy makes it send emails to people when you click a button or automate tasks when you check a box. It's darndest thing. It's so
Mhm.
fancy. And like I said, it used to be something that you would have to pay a programmer to do. And now you can do it on your own because you have all of these resources at your fingertips. It's so fancy. I like
Mhm.
it. It makes my life better. It really does. And it makes my business run smoother. So I love it. All
No, it's
right.
a
Well,
great point.
Travis, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If people want to contact you, like if they are like, hey, this dude seems all right, maybe he should do my Google Workspace stuff, how do they find you?
They can find us. Our website is probably the easiest place, tranquility.net. Or you can call, our office. I mean, we're 573-443-3983, is our number.
Which is only one digit off from the Humane Society, by the way.
Oh,
I used to answer the phone there. People would be like, hey, do you have any puppies? And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, this is an internet service provider. And then I finally looked up the name for the number for the Humane Society and it's one digit off.
Mhm. Yeah, but you can email us, support at tranquility.net. I mean, any one of those they'll definitely get to us. We'd be happy and love to help you. So.
All right. So tranquility.net or support at tranquility.net or 573-443-3983.
That's
Whoop.
it.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening and learning about Google Workspace today. Hopefully we helped you, well, at least learn something, and if not, solve a problem in your business. If you enjoyed this episode or if you learned a thing or two, please consider giving us a review, because when you review our podcast, it helps us meet more people just like you and help them solve their marketing and technology challenges, which is what Marketing with Purpose is all about, leading with helping people solve their problems. So thank you again for listening. And until next time, go forth and market with purpose.
Thanks again for listening to Marketing with Purpose. Head over to maycreate.com, MAYECREATE.com. Yeah, you heard me right, MAYE create.com, for podcast notes and more resources to grow your business. Don't let your marketing suck. Get your pride on. Market with Purpose.